I'm sitting in my Porsche 911 Turbo in a Monaco hotel parking garage, watching my phone light up with Sarah's 47th missed call today. The trunk behind me holds 2 duffel bags stuffed with $3.2 million in cash and bearer bonds. On the passenger seat sits her $80,000 engagement ring, the one I bought when I still believed in fairy tales and happily ever after. 48 hours ago, I discovered my loving wife of 5 years had drained our $400,000 emergency fund to pay for her boyfriend's mother's cancer treatment. Not a loan, not a temporary thing. Gone. Vanished into the medical bills of a woman I'd never met. For a man who'd been sending my wife heart emojis while I was busting my ass in Libya closing defense contracts. Here's the thing about trust. It's a luxury that smart men can't afford, especially men like me, who've learned the hard way that everyone you love will eventually put a knife in your back if the price is right. Sarah thought she married a boring defense contractor who worked too much and traveled too often. She had no idea she'd actually married a former military intelligence operative who'd spent 15 years learning that the only person you can trust is yourself. And even then, you better have a backup plan. So while my dear wife was confessing her sins over candle-lit dinner, expecting tears and forgiveness and couples therapy, I was already activating Protocol 7, the complete liquidation and disappearance strategy I'd hoped never to use. Now she's about to learn that Marcus Kane doesn't get mad. He gets even. And when I get even, I don't leave loose ends. I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into our house 3 days early from my Tripoli contract. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen island, staring at her phone with the kind of expression you see on people right before they jump off bridges. "You're back early," she said, not looking up. No smile, no welcome home kiss. Just the flat tone of someone who'd been caught doing something they shouldn't. "Wrapped up faster than expected?" I set my travel bag down and studied her face. 15 years in intelligence teaches you to read micro-expressions, and Sarah's were screaming guilty conscience. "Everything okay?" "Fine, just tired." I pulled out my phone and opened our joint banking app, a habit I'd developed after watching too many good soldiers get cleaned out by unfaithful wives. The emergency savings account balance hit me like a punch to the gut. $247.33. There should have been $400,000 in that account. "Sarah." My voice stayed level, controlled. "Old habits. Want to tell me why our emergency fund is empty?" She went white. Actually white, like someone had drained all the blood from her face. "Marcus, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. Take your time, make it good." She started crying then, these big theatrical sobs that might have worked on the old me, the me who believed in love and trust and all that bullshit. "It's David," she choked out. "His mother has cancer, and he doesn't have insurance, and the treatment is so expensive." "David." I sat down across from her, perfectly calm. "David Chen, your childhood friend who's been texting you every day for the past 6 months? How did you—" "Sarah, sweetheart, you left your laptop open. Heart emojis aren't exactly subtle." The tears stopped. Just like that. "Interesting." "It's not what you think," she said quickly. "David and I are just friends. His mother is dying, Marcus, dying. He had nowhere else to turn." "So you gave him 400 grand of our money without asking me?" "It was an emergency." "Our emergency fund. For our emergencies." I leaned back in my chair. "Tell me, what exactly is the nature of your friendship with David?" "We grew up together. I told you about him." "You told me about a lot of people. Refresh my memory." She squirmed. "Lied some more?" "Gave me this whole story about childhood friendships and innocent coffee dates and how David was like a brother to her." I listened to every word while simultaneously planning how I was going to destroy her life. Marcus, please. I know I should have asked, but there wasn't time. The treatment had to start immediately, and you chose him over us. That's not... You chose him over us, I repeated. You chose some other man over your husband. You chose to betray 15 years of my work, my sacrifice, my trust. For what? A childhood friend? Marcus, I'm going to take a shower. When I come down, you're going to tell me everything. And I mean everything. Every conversation, every meeting, every text message. Because if I find out you're lying to me about anything else, we're done. Do you understand? She nodded frantically. Yes, I understand. Marcus, I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. I kissed her forehead gently. I know you do, baby. We'll figure this out together. The funny thing about being a professional liar is that you recognize amateur hour when you see it. While Sarah thought I was upstairs decompressing, I was actually in my home office running a full intelligence workup on David Chen and his dying mother. Turns out David Chen isn't some struggling guy who can't afford his mother's cancer treatment. David Chen owns 3 luxury car dealerships in Orange County and has a net worth of approximately $12 million. His mother, Helen Chen, does have cancer, stage 3 breast cancer that's actually responding well to treatment, the kind of treatment that's covered by excellent insurance through David's successful business. But here's the really interesting part. David's been playing the struggling, desperate son routine with my wife for months, sending her sob stories about medical bills and experimental treatments that insurance won't cover. All lies. All carefully crafted to manipulate her into opening her wallet. And her legs, apparently. The text messages I recovered from Sarah's cloud backup were illuminating. 6 months of increasingly intimate conversations. David telling her how beautiful she was, how her husband didn't appreciate her, how she deserved better. Classic manipulation tactics, and Sarah fell for every single one. You're so generous, so caring. Marcus is lucky to have someone like you. I don't know what I'd do without you in my life. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed in touch after high school. And Sarah, eating it up. You've always been special to me, David, even after all these years. I think about you more than I should. Marcus doesn't understand me the way you do. The photos were even better. Sarah and David at a cozy restaurant 2 weeks ago. Sarah and David walking hand in hand through a park. Sarah wearing a dress I'd never seen before, looking at David like he hung the fucking moon. But the crown jewel was the hotel receipt from last Tuesday, the day I was supposed to be in meetings in Tripoli, but was actually in a safe house in Benghazi. The day Sarah told me she was having dinner with her sister. The Ritz-Carlton, one night, presidential suite. Charged to David's credit card. I sat back in my chair and laughed. Actually laughed out loud. All those years in Afghanistan and Iraq, dealing with terrorist cells and arms dealers and people who'd gut you for the change in your pocket. And I get taken down by a car salesman from Orange County and my own wife. The irony was perfect. I heard Sarah's footsteps on the stairs. Showtime. Marcus? She knocked on the office door. Can we talk now? Come in, sweetheart. She perched on the edge of the chair across from my desk, hands folded in her lap like a guilty schoolgirl. I want to tell you everything, she said. About David, about the money, all of it. I'm listening. She gave me the sanitized version. David reached out to reconnect. His mother got sick. They met for coffee a few times to catch up. Purely platonic. When she learned about the medical bills, her heart went out to him. She made an impulsive decision to help without consulting me. That's your story? I asked when she finished. That's what happened. Sarah, I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Is there anything at all, about your relationship with David that you're not telling me?" She looked me straight in the eye. "No, I've told you everything." Professional liars recognize amateur hour. "Okay," I said. "We'll get through this together." I held her while she cried grateful tears into my shirt, whispering apologies and promises about how she'd never betray my trust again. While she sobbed, I was mentally calculating how much her jewelry collection was worth. The next morning, I brought Sarah coffee in bed and told her I'd figured out a solution. "I've got some liquid investments I can cash out," I said, sitting on the edge of the mattress. "We'll be tight for a while, but we'll rebuild the emergency fund." "Really?" She sat up, eyes bright with relief. "You're not angry?" "I'm disappointed, but you did it for the right reasons." I kissed her forehead. "Your heart was in the right place, even if your judgment wasn't." "I love you so much," she whispered. "I love you too, baby." Such a sweet moment. Really touching. While Sarah was in the shower, I called my financial manager in Switzerland. "Andreas, it's Marcus. I need you to initiate Protocol 7 immediately." "Are you certain? Once we begin..." "I'm certain. How long to liquidate everything?" 72 hours for full liquidity. The art collection will take longer." "The art can wait. I need the offshore accounts active and the documentation ready." "Of course. May I ask what triggered this?" "My wife fucked me over for another man. So now I'm going to fuck her over for the rest of her life." "Ah, a woman. I should have guessed." Andreas had been handling wet work finances for intelligence operatives for 30 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. "The house?" he asked. "Sell it. Shell company purchase, then immediate resale to overseas buyer. I want it untraceable." "Understood. I'll begin immediately." I hung up and started my coffee, listening to Sarah singing in the shower. She always sang when she was happy. Today it was that Taylor Swift song about love being golden. How fucking appropriate. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "Thank you for understanding about the money. Sarah says you're being really supportive." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Of course. Sarah's happiness is the most important thing to me." His response was immediate. "You're a good man, Marcus. Sarah's lucky to have you." I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Sarah's jewelry collection was the first to go. 14 pieces worth approximately $240,000 total. Her grandmother's antique necklaces, the diamond tennis bracelet I'd bought her for our anniversary, the emerald earrings from our honeymoon in Ireland. "Where's my jewelry box?" she asked 3 days later, standing in our bedroom doorway. "Hotel safe," I said without looking up from my laptop. "The cleaning lady mentioned some suspicious activity in the neighborhood. Thought it was safer there until we upgrade our home security." "Oh, good thinking. So trusting. So naive." The art collection went next. A Monet sketch, 2 small Picassos, and a sculpture by some artist whose name I couldn't pronounce, but whose work was apparently worth more than most people's houses. "The art's being cleaned and reappraised for insurance," I told Sarah when she noticed the empty walls. "Should have it back next week." "Everything's being cleaned at once?" "Package deal. Saves money." She bought it completely. Sarah's BMW disappeared from the country club parking lot on a Thursday afternoon. Officially, it was stolen. Unofficially, it was on a cargo ship to Dubai by Friday morning, sold to a collector who paid cash and didn't ask questions. "Someone stole my car," Sarah said, crying into the phone with her insurance company. "Yes, I'm sure I locked it. No, I don't have any enemies." I rubbed her shoulders sympathetically while she dealt with the police report. "It's okay, baby," I murmured. "Insurance will cover it." Except I'd already called the insurance company and canceled her comprehensive coverage the day before. Clerical error. These things happen. The house was the masterpiece. I transferred the deed to a shell company based in Delaware, which immediately put it on the market for $200,000 below value, a price that guaranteed a fast sale to an overseas investment group that specialized in money laundering for Russian oligarchs. By the time Sarah realized what was happening, the house would belong to someone she couldn't even pronounce, let alone sue. "Marcus," she said one evening, looking through our mail. "Why did we get a letter from a real estate attorney?" "Probably junk mail. You know how those vultures operate." "It's addressed to current property owner about a title transfer." I took the letter from her hands and tossed it in the trash. Spam. They're always trying to scare homeowners into buying unnecessary insurance. "Are you sure?" "Sarah, sweetheart, do you trust me?" She melted. Actually melted. "Of course I trust you." "Then stop worrying about junk mail and let me handle our finances. That's my job, remember?" "You're right. Sorry." I kissed her cheek. "Nothing to be sorry for. You've got enough stress with everything else going on." If she only knew. Sarah's credit card started declining on a Tuesday afternoon while she was shopping for organic groceries at Whole Foods. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this card has been declined," the cashier said. "That's impossible. Try it again." "I've tried 3 times. Do you have another form of payment?" Sarah tried 4 different cards. All declined. She called me from the parking lot, voice shaking with embarrassment and confusion. "Marcus, something's wrong with our accounts. All my cards are being declined." "That's weird. Let me call the bank." "Did you change something? Close an account?" "Of course not. Probably just a computer glitch. These things happen." What had actually happened was that I'd systematically closed every joint account we had, transferring the balances to my personal accounts before termination. Sarah's cards were linked to accounts that no longer existed. "I'll sort it out today," I promised. "Use cash for now." "I don't have any cash." "Check my wallet. There should be a few hundred in there." There wasn't, of course. I'd cleaned it out that morning. "Marcus, your wallet's empty too." "Shit. Okay, don't panic. I'll stop by the bank on my way home and figure this out." Her gym membership was terminated for non-payment. Her spa appointments were canceled. Her monthly massage therapist sent a polite but firm email about outstanding invoices. "Marcus, I think someone's stolen our identity," Sarah said, pacing around our kitchen. "First my car, now this. Should we call the police?" "Let me handle it through the bank first. If it's identity theft, they'll have better resources than local cops." "But what if—" "Sarah." I took her hands in mine, looking deep into her eyes. "Have I ever let you down before?" "No." "Then trust me now, I'll fix this." She nodded, reassured by my confidence. If only she knew that I wasn't fixing anything. I was breaking everything, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to break. Sarah discovered the truth about David on a Friday evening, purely by accident. She'd been driving to the grocery store, in my car since hers was stolen, and the insurance company was being difficult about the claim, when she spotted David's distinctive red Ferrari parked outside Nobu Malibu. Curious, she went inside to say hello and found him at a corner table with a blonde woman who definitely wasn't his dying mother. They were sharing a $300 bottle of wine and laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. The same David who'd been texting her sob stories about medical bills and financial hardship was casually dropping $1,000 on dinner. Sarah called me from the restaurant parking lot, crying hysterically. "He lied to me," she sobbed. "David lied about everything. He's not poor, Marcus. He's at Nobu right now spending more on dinner than most people make in a week." "Slow down," I said calmly. "What exactly did you see?" "He's with some woman, and they're drinking champagne, and he's wearing a watch that costs more than our mortgage payment. God, Marcus, what have I done?" "You were trying to help someone you cared about." "But he doesn't need help. He never needed help. He manipulated me into giving him our money for no reason. Sarah, where are you right now? In the parking lot outside the restaurant. I can't face him. What do I do? Come home. We'll figure this out together. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. You must hate me. I could never hate you. You're my wife. True statement. I didn't hate her. Hate requires passion, and I'd moved past passion into something much colder and more dangerous. Sarah came home in tears, ready to confess everything and throw herself on my mercy. What she found instead was an empty house. Not empty like burglars had been through it. Empty like no one had ever lived there at all. The furniture was gone. The pictures were gone. Even the food in the refrigerator had been cleared out. The only things left were divorce papers on the kitchen counter and a detailed spreadsheet showing exactly what I'd liquidated and when. Her jewelry? $240,000, sold to private collectors in New York and London. Her car? $85,000, sold to overseas buyer. The house? $1.2 million, sold to Russian investment group. Art collection? $350,000, sold at private auction in Geneva. Various other assets? $1,125,000. Total liquidation value? $3 million. At the bottom of the spreadsheet was a single line. Invoice for services rendered, $400,000. And below that, balance due to Sarah Kane, $0. My phone rang while I was enjoying a very expensive scotch at the Monaco casino. Marcus. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Where are you? Having a drink? The house is empty. I noticed. Where's our furniture? Where are my things? Liquidated. I needed to recover the money you stole. I didn't steal. Sarah, you took $400,000 of our money and gave it to another man without my permission. In most jurisdictions, that's called theft. But David lied to me. His mother doesn't even need the money. I know. Silence. You knew? I've known since the day you confessed. David Chen owns 3 car dealerships and has a net worth of $12 million. His mother's cancer treatment is covered by excellent insurance. You got played, sweetheart. But why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to see how far you'd go. Turns out you'd go all the way to a hotel room. Another silence, longer this time. You know about the hotel. I know about everything. The texts, the photos, the romantic dinners, the presidential suite at the Ritz. I know you've been fucking David Chen for months while telling me he was just a childhood friend. Marcus, I also know you're pregnant. The line went dead quiet, except for her breathing. How long have you known? She finally whispered. Does it matter? It's not. I don't know whose. Yes, you do. You know exactly whose baby it is, because you know exactly when you conceived. And you know it wasn't with me, because I was in Libya that week. Marcus, please, come home. We can work this out. I am home. Home is wherever I decide it is. You're just someone I used to know. I hung up and ordered another scotch. Sarah hired a private investigator named Tony Restrepo, who had the kind of mustache that belonged in a 1970s porn movie, and the kind of ethics that belonged in the same place. Restrepo was good at his job, though. 3 days after Sarah hired him, my phone rang with a call from a number I hadn't seen in 5 years. Marcus Kane, said a familiar voice. This is Colonel Torres. Rebecca Torres, my former commanding officer in Afghanistan, and the closest thing I'd ever had to a friend in the military. Rebecca, been a while. Not long enough, apparently. We need to talk. About the fact that you're being hunted by some very dangerous people, and your wife's private investigator just put you on their radar. I felt that familiar chill run down my spine. The same feeling I used to get right before an IED went off or sniper fire erupted. Explain. Jake Morrison is dead. Jake Morrison. My old teammate from the 75th Ranger Regiment. We'd served 3 tours together before I moved into intelligence work. When? 3 weeks ago. Made to look like a car accident. But I've seen the photos. That wasn't an accident, Marcus. Who? We think it's connected to the Rashid Op. Someone's been systematically hunting down everyone who was involved in that mission. Mahmoud Rashid, an arms dealer we'd captured in a joint operation 5 years ago. He'd been funding terrorist cells across the Middle East, and our intelligence had led to the seizure of over $100 million in weapons and the arrest of 43 of his associates. Rashid had sworn revenge before they dragged him away in handcuffs. Most of us figured it was just talk. Apparently not. How many others? I asked. Jake's the third. Williams died in a climbing accident in Colorado 2 months ago. Martinez had a heart attack last month, 34 years old and in perfect health. Fuck. Marcus, what happened with your wife? Why is she looking for you? I gave Rebecca the condensed version. Wife cheated, stole money. I disappeared with everything we owned. Jesus Christ, Marcus. Your disappearance triggered every alarm bell in the intelligence community. There are people who think you've gone rogue. I'm not rogue, I'm divorced. Well, your personal life just became a national security issue. Sarah's investigator has been asking questions about your military service, your overseas contracts, your financial arrangements. He's been very thorough. How thorough? Thorough enough that he's attracted attention from people who want to know where you are. I closed my eyes and tried to think. Sarah's investigation had inadvertently painted a target on my back. The same operational security that had kept me hidden for 5 years was now compromised because my wife wanted her money back. Rebecca, I need to ask you something, and I need a straight answer. Shoot. How did they find Jake? We don't know yet. No, I mean, how did they know Jake was part of the Rashid operation? That mission was classified above top secret. The only people who knew about it were the 8 of us who went in and maybe a dozen people in Washington. Silence on the other end of the line. Rebecca? Marcus, there's something else. Something I didn't want to tell you over the phone. Tell me now. We think there's a leak. Someone with access to classified personnel files. Someone in our unit? We don't know, but Marcus, be careful who you trust, even me. The line went dead. I sat in my Monaco hotel room, staring out at the Mediterranean and thinking about how quickly life can go from simple revenge to life or death survival. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We know where you are. I changed hotels immediately, switching to a place in Nice under one of my backup identities. But the feeling of being watched never left. 2 days later, Sarah showed up at the Hotel Negresco lobby. I was having coffee and reading the Financial Times when I spotted her at the front desk, showing my photo to the concierge. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in them, the kind of desperate exhaustion that comes from chasing ghosts across international borders. I folded my newspaper and watched her work. The concierge was being politely unhelpful, the way Europeans are when Americans come asking questions without proper introductions. Sarah pulled out her phone and made a call. Probably Restrepo, updating him on her progress. I finished my coffee, left money on the table, and walked directly to the front desk. Excuse me, I said to the concierge in perfect French. This woman is my wife. Is there a problem? Sarah spun around, eyes wide with shock and relief. Marcus! Hello, Sarah. The concierge looked between us, then discreetly withdrew to handle other guests. We need to talk, Sarah said. Do we? People are looking for you. Dangerous people. I raised an eyebrow. Really? What gave you that impression, huh? My investigator, Tony, he's dead, Marcus. That got my attention. When? Yesterday. They found him in his office with a bullet in his head. The police think it was a robbery, but nothing was missing except his files on you. And you think this is connected to me? How? Because the day before he died, he called me. He was scared, Marcus. Really scared. He said he'd been asking questions about your military service, and some very serious people had started asking questions about him. I looked around the hotel lobby, noting exits and potential threats out of habit. Sarah, you need to go home. I can't go home. There is no home. You sold it, remember? Then go somewhere else. Anywhere else. But you can't be here. Why? What did you do in the military, Marcus? What aren't you telling me? Before I could answer, the hotel's glass doors exploded inward in a shower of sparkling fragments. 3 men in dark suits came through the opening, moving with the kind of professional precision that screamed military training. They had silenced pistols and dead eyes, and the look of people who'd done this many times before. I grabbed Sarah and dove behind the front desk as bullets chewed through the marble where we'd been standing. Stay down, I hissed. Marcus, what's happening? The part of my life you never knew about. I pulled my Sig Sauer from the shoulder holster I always wore and checked the magazine. 15 rounds. 3 targets. Marcus, Sarah whispered, staring at the gun. Where did that come from? The same place your boyfriend's money came from. I popped up and put 2 rounds center mass into the closest shooter. He dropped like a sack of meat, but his partners were already moving, using the lobby's marble pillars for cover. Hotel guests were screaming and running for the exits. The concierge was on the phone with police, speaking rapid French. Sarah, when I say run, you run for the fire exit behind us. Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Just run. I'm not leaving you. You're pregnant with another man's baby and someone's trying to kill me. This isn't a romantic movie, it's a battlefield. The second shooter tried to flank us from the left. I put him down with a headshot that painted the white marble pillar behind him with bright red abstract art. The third one was smarter. He retreated toward the entrance, keeping his gun trained on our position while backing toward the door. Run, I told Sarah. Marcus, run! She ran. I counted to 3, then rolled out from behind the desk with my gun extended. The third shooter was gone, probably regrouping for another assault or calling for backup. I found Sarah in the fire stairwell, hyperventilating against the concrete wall. Are they dead? She gasped. 2 of them. Who were they? People who want me dead because of something I did 5 years ago. What did you do? My job. I took her arm and guided her up the stairs toward the roof. We needed to get out of the hotel before local police arrived and started asking questions I couldn't answer. Marcus, I'm scared. Good. Scared people stay alive longer. We spent the night in a safe house that Andreas had arranged in the hills above Cannes. Sarah sat on the couch, clutching a cup of tea and staring at me like I was a stranger. Which I suppose I was. Tell me the truth, she said finally. All of it? I poured myself a scotch and sat across from her. I was Army Rangers for 8 years, then military intelligence for 7 more, specialized in high-value target acquisition and elimination. Elimination? I killed people for a living, Sarah. Bad people, but still people. How many? Enough that I stopped counting. She absorbed this information like someone trying to swallow broken glass. The defense contracts? Cover story. I do occasional freelance work for the agency, but mostly I've been retired. Until now. Until your boyfriend's father decided to get involved. She looked confused. David's father? David Chen's father is William Chen, who owns a shipping company that specializes in moving cargo with no questions asked. 3 years ago, his company was used to smuggle weapons for Mahmoud Rashid, an arms dealer I helped capture in Afghanistan. You think David— I think David seducing you wasn't an accident. I think his father put him up to it as a way to flush me out of hiding. But the money was never about the money. It was about making me angry enough to break operational security, about making me visible. Sarah stared into her teacup. So I was bait. You were bait. And the baby is David's. How can you be so calm about this? I took a sip of scotch. Because anger is a luxury I can't afford right now. Being angry gets you killed. Do you even care that I cheated on you? I considered the question seriously. I cared when I thought it was about love. Now that I know it was about business, not so much. You got played by professionals. It happens. That's it? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? That I'm heartbroken? That I'll forgive you if you come home with me? Sarah, there is no home. There is no us. There's just two people who used to be married, sitting in a safe house while killers hunt for us. She started crying then. Not the manipulative tears from before, but the real thing. The kind of crying that comes from finally understanding how completely fucked you are. What happens now? She whispered. Now I finish what I started. By doing what? By killing everyone who's trying to kill me. My phone rang. Andreas. The yacht is ready, he said without preamble. Good. What about the other thing? David Chen is in Monaco. Hotel Hermitage, presidential suite. He arrived this morning with 2 bodyguards. Professional? Very. But they're expecting an attack from the sea, not from inside the hotel. Perfect. I hung up and looked at Sarah. I'm going to give you a choice, I said. You can disappear, new identity, new life, enough money to raise your child somewhere safe, or you can help me end this. Help you how? By doing what you do best. By making David Chen believe you still love him. Sarah called David from a burner phone, crying hysterically about how I'd found out about them and stolen everything, and how she was scared and alone and pregnant with his baby. David, I'm in Monaco. I followed Marcus here, but he's dangerous. I think he might hurt me. Sarah, slow down. What do you mean, dangerous? He had a gun, David. He pointed a gun at me. I think he's lost his mind. Where are you now? A hotel. I don't feel safe. Can you come get me? Of course. Text me the address. David, I love you. I should have left him months ago. I love you too. Everything's going to be okay. She hung up and looked at me with disgust. I can't believe I fell for that bullshit, she said. He's good at it. Probably been running cons since he was old enough to talk. And now? Now we wait. David arrived at the Hotel de Paris 2 hours later, alone except for his bodyguards. Sarah met him in the lobby bar, wearing a black dress that showed off her pregnancy and tears that looked completely genuine. I watched from across the room, nursing a drink and reading a book like any other tourist. Sarah, my God, David said, rushing to embrace her. Are you okay? I'm scared, she whispered, letting him hold her. Marcus isn't who I thought he was. What do you mean? He's some kind of soldier or spy. I don't know. But he's killed people, David. He told me so. David's eyes found mine across the room. I raised my glass in a mock toast. He's here, David said quietly. Where? Don't turn around. Guy in the gray suit reading a book. That's him. David, what do we do? We leave. Right now. They stood up together. David's arm protectively around Sarah's shoulders. I finished my drink and followed them out to the street, keeping a professional distance. David's Ferrari was parked outside with a valet. One bodyguard got in the passenger seat, the other took a motorcycle to follow behind. Sarah and David climbed into the back seat. I had my own transportation waiting. A BMW motorcycle that could keep up with a Ferrari and disappear into traffic when necessary. They drove to David's yacht, a 120-foot monster called Easy Money, moored in Monaco Harbor. Subtle. I watched through binoculars from a cafe across the harbor as they boarded. David was animated, gesturing as he talked. Sarah played her part perfectly, looking frightened and grateful. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "He's planning to take me to his father's compound in Hong Kong. Private jet leaves in 3 hours." I texted back, "Perfect, stay close to him." Then I called Andreas. "Change of plans. I need to be on that yacht in 2 hours." "That's impossible. Security is too tight." "Andreas, I didn't ask if it was possible. I told you what I need." "How do you propose to get aboard undetected?" "I don't. I'm going in loud." The assault began at sunset. I came up from the water wearing full diving gear, using a rebreather to avoid bubbles. The yacht's hull was smooth fiberglass, but there were enough handholds for someone with my training. I planted shaped charges on the engine compartment, set for a 10-minute delay. Not enough to sink the boat, but enough to disable it and create chaos. Then I climbed. The first bodyguard died without knowing I was there. A knife between the ribs while he was lighting a cigarette on the stern deck. I dragged his body behind a coil of rope and took his earpiece. "Sector 2 clear," I whispered into the comm. "Copy that," came the response. The second bodyguard was harder. He was positioned at the bow, covering the forward approach with a good view of the water. I had to wait for him to turn away before I could move. When he did, I put him down with a sleeper hold that left him unconscious but alive. I wasn't a monster. Well, not completely. I made my way to the main cabin, where I could hear voices through the windows. Sarah and David were inside, with 2 other men I didn't recognize. "Still don't understand why we need to leave so quickly," Sarah was saying. "Because your husband is a very dangerous man," said a voice I didn't recognize. Older, authoritative. "And my son has been careless." "Father, I had everything under control." "You had nothing under control. You were supposed to draw him out, not fall in love with his wife." "I'm not in love with her." "Then why is she carrying your child?" Awkward silence. I checked my watch. 5 minutes until the charges blew. "The point is," the older voice continued, "Marcus Kane has eliminated 3 of our people and shown remarkable resistance to termination. We're returning to Hong Kong where we can deal with him properly." "What about Sarah?" David asked. "Sarah served her purpose. She's no longer necessary." I heard Sarah gasp. "What does that mean?" "It means, my dear, that you were always intended to be collateral damage." 4 minutes. I moved to the cabin door and listened. 4 people inside, at least 1 armed. Sarah was in there, probably scared out of her mind, finally understanding that David had never cared about her at all. 3 minutes. Time to move. I kicked in the cabin door and rolled inside, gun drawn. David was standing by the bar with a scotch in his hand. An older Asian man in an expensive suit, William Chen, presumably, was sitting in a leather chair. A third man in a cheap suit had a gun pointed at Sarah, who was zip-tied to a chair in the corner. "Marcus!" she screamed. "Gentlemen?" I said pleasantly. "We need to talk." "Mr. Kane," said William Chen, "how resourceful of you." "Not really. Your security is shit." "Perhaps. But you're outnumbered." "Am I?" 2 minutes. "David," I said conversationally, "tell me something. Was any of it real?" "What?" "The seduction, the romance, the sob story about your mother, any of it?" David looked at his father, then back at me. "It was business." "That's what I figured." I shot him in the knee. David screamed and went down, clutching his leg. Blood spread across the white carpet. Jesus Christ! The gunman yelled, swinging his weapon toward me. I put 2 rounds in his chest before he could complete the motion. William Chen didn't even flinch. Impressive, he said. No wonder you survived so long. 1 minute. Your son cost me my marriage, I said. Your organization cost me 3 good friends. What do you think fair compensation would be? What do you want? I want you to call off your dogs. I want Rashid's people to forget I exist. And I want a written apology for the inconvenience. William Chen laughed. And in return? In return, I don't kill you. You're in no position to negotiate, Mr. Kane. My security team will be here momentarily. Your security team is dead, and in about 30 seconds your boat is going to be disabled by explosive charges I placed on the engine. His eyes widened slightly. 30 seconds. Sarah, I called without taking my eyes off William Chen. Are you hurt? No, she said shakily. But Marcus, 20 seconds. David, I said to the writhing figure on the floor, I want you to understand something. Your father used you just like you used my wife. You were never anything more than a tool to him. Fuck you, David gasped. 10 seconds. William, I said, last chance. Call off your people, or I start cutting pieces off your son until you do. You're bluffing. 5 seconds. I never bluff. The charges detonated. The yacht lurched violently to one side as the explosion tore through the engine compartment. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power died. Alarms started blaring. In the chaos, William Chen went for the dead gunman's weapon. I shot him twice in the chest. He fell back into his chair, blood spreading across his white shirt, and looked at me with something like respect. Not bad, he wheezed. For an amateur. I'm not an amateur. I'm retired. He died with a smile on his face. David was still writhing on the floor, clutching his knee and screaming about how I'd killed his father. Sarah, I said, cutting her zip ties with my knife. We need to go, now. Marcus, Apologies later. Survival now. I helped her to her feet and guided her toward the emergency exit. Behind us, David was crawling toward his father's body, leaving a trail of blood on the white carpet. We made it to the tender, just as the Monaco harbor police boats appeared on the horizon, their spotlights cutting through the twilight. Where are we going? Sarah asked as I started the engine. Away from here. And then? Then you disappear forever. We made it to a private airfield outside Nice, where Andreas had a jet waiting. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the Mediterranean as we flew toward Switzerland. It's over, she said finally. For you, maybe. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her the recording app that had been running since we boarded the yacht. You've been recording us? I've been recording everything since this started. Why? Because I don't trust anyone, including you. Her face went pale. Marcus, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you knew, about David, about his father, about all of it. That's not true, Sarah, I listened to your phone calls. All of them. Including the one you made to William Chen 3 days ago. The blood drained from her face completely. You've been playing both sides from the beginning, I continued, feeding information to David's people while pretending to help me. The pregnancy, the tears, the scared victim act, all of it was bullshit. Marcus, the only thing I can't figure out is whether you were working with them from the start, or if they recruited you after I disappeared. She stared at her hands for a long moment. After, she said quietly. They contacted me after you vanished, said they could help me get my money back. In exchange for information about your habits, your safe houses, your backup plans. And you gave it to them. I was angry. You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life when you decided to fuck another man. I loved David. David was going to kill you tonight. You heard his father. You were always expendable." She started crying again, but these weren't the manipulative tears from before. These were the tears of someone who'd finally realized how completely they'd been used. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now you get to live with the consequences of your choices." The plane touched down at a private airfield in Geneva. Andreas was waiting with a car and a manila envelope. "Everything you requested," he said, handing me the envelope. Inside were new identity documents for Sarah: passport, driver's license, birth certificate, social security card. All completely legitimate, all completely untraceable to her real identity. Also in the envelope was a bank card with access to an account containing exactly $400,000. "Your severance package," I told her. "The same amount you stole from me." "Marcus, the identity is clean. The money is clean. You can go anywhere. Be anyone. But if I ever see you again, if you ever contact me, if you ever tell anyone about what happened here, I will kill you." She took the envelope with shaking hands. "Do you understand me?" I asked. "Yes." "Say it." "I understand." "Good." Andreas drove her to the train station. I watched from the car as she walked into the terminal, carrying a single bag and enough money to start over somewhere else. She never looked back. I'm sitting on the deck of a beach house in Costa Rica, reading about David Chen's arrest in the International Herald Tribune. Turns out the Monaco police found enough evidence on his father's yacht to connect the Chen family to arms dealing, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. David got 25 to life. His mother's cancer went into remission, which is nice for her. The article mentions that David's pregnant girlfriend disappeared before she could testify, and that authorities are still looking for her in connection with the case. They're not looking very hard. I fold the newspaper and check my phone. No missed calls, no urgent emails, no crises requiring my immediate attention. It's been 6 months since anyone tried to kill me, which might be a record. My beer is cold, the sunset is spectacular, and tomorrow I'm going deep-sea fishing with a local guide who doesn't ask questions about why I pay in cash. Life is good. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "It's a girl." I stare at the message for a long moment, then delete it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. I finish my beer and walk inside to make dinner. On the kitchen counter is a letter from a law firm in Switzerland confirming that the divorce is final and all assets have been distributed according to my instructions. Sarah got her $400,000. I got everything else. Fair trade. The funny thing about trust is that once you lose it, you realize you never really needed it in the first place. I spent 15 years learning to rely on myself. Then 5 years pretending I could rely on someone else. It was a nice experiment, but experiments end. I pour a glass of wine and walk back out to the deck to watch the rest of the sunset. Tomorrow I'll probably get a call from Andreas about a job, some oligarch or cartel leader who needs to disappear, some intelligence operation that requires my particular skill set. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just go fishing and pretend to be a normal person for a while longer. The thing about having fuck you money is that you get to decide when to say fuck you. Tonight I'm saying it to everyone, even myself.